Welcome back to another edition of the L&D Podcast, focusing on one big question: what's next? And today, I couldn't be more excited to have Keith Keating on. Keith, I'm surprised that you even talk to a guy like me anymore. I mean, you are like, in in some elevated status now in L&D, which is wonderful and fully deserved by
I
the
would say
some
I
of the
don't know why you
books.
keep inviting me back. I keep showing up because you keep inviting me.
Well, sooner or later, one of us is going to have enough of this. But your most recent book, which I hope you will introduce, just opened you up to all sorts of new conversations and interesting conversations. So you're a great guest to have on because you're not just seeing what's going on at BDO Canada or kind of the conversations that run in all of our heads, but you're in live conversations with people all the time. And so hearing what you think is next is I think really important to our audience. But I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself in any way that you see fit.
Perfect. I think why you asked me back is I am one of the few people, at least on LinkedIn, that are actual practitioners. I'm
Hmm.
jumping ahead because I think this is part of the challenge with our industry, but I gave birth last year to Hidden Value. This is my second child. First child is Trusted Learning Advisor. If you haven't
Yep.
heard of any of my children, where the hell have you been?
Right.
I am a
Time to open the Amazon account and get at it. Yeah.
yes, or your library.
Hmm.
You can rent them as well. No, not rent them, borrow them, check them out. That's how much I use the library.
I don't know. I just buy them and see what happens.
Yes. So I am a lifelong L&D practitioner, part-time scholar, and full-time lifelong learner. That's me.
Yeah. And you have some university association as well. Tell us
Uh,
about that.
yeah, no. I went to
Okay.
school. I went to school. Yes, so I am a lecturer at the University of Pennsylvania, which is
Okay.
also my alma mater, where I received my doctorate. Thank you for the plug.
Yeah, good, good. All right, Keith. So here's the big question. You know what's coming. Um, what's next? Short term, 6 to 12 months, long term, 1 to 3 years. And all the conversations that you're having, I'm sure you're doing a ton of reading. I hope you're working on another book.
I
As
am.
you think through that, excellent. Because the first two were really good. Both of those books were some of the best material I've read, and so thank you for those things. Um, but tell us, what do you see? What's coming?
I want to introduce you to the most important tool as a self-acclaimed, proclaimed workforce futurist. I don't think we often share enough about the tools that help us think about the future. And so I want to introduce you to the most important one that if you don't have, you need to have.
Is it
And
you're
that
going to show us
is,
your book again? I thought it was your book. Okay.
I'm going to show you the magic eight ball. So if you want
Okay.
to know what's going to happen in the future, you need to get one of these. I think they're about 19.95 on Amazon and they're amazing. So let me
Okay.
ask and find out what is going to happen for L&D in the future. Please try again later. That's how the future works is
Not
we
feeling
have
rock
no
solid on your quantitative and qualitative analysis here.
All right, let me give it one more shot. What's going to happen in the future of work for L&D? Cannot predict now. I'm telling you, this thing is
Yeah,
amazingly accurate.
it is.
And that holds true for all of us. We have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. It's like if it were 2019, none of us knew COVID was coming. If it was
Mhm.
2022, none of us knew OpenAI was going to be
Yep.
changing the narrative of the world around us. None of us knew 3 weeks ago that Claude was going to be launching the design function this weekend. And so now it's all of us are in an uproar and shaking in a good way and also a an immediately reminding way that it's changing daily for us. So, what does the future hold? It's going to continue to hold lots of change on a daily basis where we're going to have to continuously be pivoting. So, what does that
Would
mean? Go ahead.
Let me ask you one question about that. I mean, change has always been it's part of everybody's industry. That's not different. What might be different is the pace of it.
the pace. The data
Your
didn't
emphasis,
change.
nothing is changing daily historically, right? That
Nope.
hardly ever happens. And suddenly we're in the middle of every day, every week every month, certainly every month is a new thing.
Thursday, and for the last couple of years, for a very basic example, I've been teaching a communication program and a design program as recently as Thursday. On Friday, that's now changed. I have to change now because there's
Yeah,
an amazing new tool. And I know we don't want to get into the whole AI thing, but we
yeah,
have to in the sense of the pace of change and how AI is impacting that for us. And so, as a result of this, not going down the AI path for this discussion, what I would say is one of the biggest risks for our industry right now is not enough people are getting the basics right. So
yeah.
Kobe Bryant once said, never get bored with the basics. And that has to be true for us as practitioners. We get these shiny new objects, and suddenly we're chasing those. And in the last 2 years, everybody's become an AI wizard or expert or all of these things. But have you built your foundation? Do you have the fundamentals of what we need to be doing correctly? For example, learning science. I'm going to talk about this until I'm finished or finish breathing, if you will. But all of us need to understand the five basic components of learning science. Do you know what they are? Are you applying those? Do you know how to run a measurement? Do you know how to show impact? Do you understand the context of your organization? What I also see consistently happening is there are blanket statements that get made about the L&D industry. And typically we're trying to lead with the scare tactic, the fear, the negative. L&D never does this. L&D's failing this. L&D this and that. I've done some personal research to see what other industry bashes themselves so openly. I don't hear the nursing industry saying how they're failing their patients. I don't hear the IT industry saying how they're failing their clients and how technology is failing everybody. Maybe there's an industry out there, I just haven't been able to find it. Yet we continuously lead with how we're failing at everything that we're doing. And the challenge is the majority of the people that are saying that is because they want to sell you something.
Mm.
They're not
Because they
actual
have a fix.
practitioners
They
doing the
have a
work.
fix. Yeah.
And so they're trying to tell us that we have this problem, that every one of us have this problem, and that we need to apply whatever the technological tool is, whatever the service is. But the reality is, the only world that matters is your organization. That's it. So what I'm doing at BDO works because it's BDO. There are so many characteristics, nuances, qualities that set me up for success that have nothing to do with me. It has to do with the culture. It has to do with the leadership. It has to do with the readiness of BDO and the maturity level there. Everything that I'm doing at BDO, I've tried to do everywhere else. It wasn't successful at GM. What I did at GM wasn't successful at Archwell. What I did at Archwell wouldn't be successful at BDO. So for me as a practitioner, I'm just simply sharing the story of what I'm doing at BDO because all of us need to be looking and listening for those practitioner stories, taking what works, putting it into our toolkit, and then measuring it against our own organization. Will this work for me here now in my organization? And so for us, a lot of things won't work. We're not a technology first organization. So a fancy LXP isn't going to matter.
Right.
Digital
Right.
learning doesn't matter. For us, it's all about in person or virtual. But that's my organization, my universe. And so to answer your question, what's next? I think it's taking a step back and getting the basics right
Hmm.
for what we stand upon, what we value, what we should be doing as an industry. I don't want to speak for the industry, but I know as a practitioner, I need to get those basics right.
So you are not advocating against global thinking. You are
Nope.
not advocating against learning by association with other people. You're advocating for that and
Think
a
globally, act
local
locally.
really apply locally is where I was going to go with it.
Hmm.
That learn all the big stuff. And again, that, the learning science, right? Adult learning theory. Despite the tool, unless somebody's hooking up electrodes, I mean, we learn the way we learn. And getting that core, figuring out which tools work for you. So learn them all and then apply locally. So there's not a so that's a really interesting idea. That there's not a one size fits all in application. There is an adult learning theory. There's a commonality to it. We believe that it is global
There
and
is no holy
universal.
grail for us
No,
as an industry. And again,
right.
I equate it to other
Hmm.
industries, and I just go to nursing immediately. There's no holy grail for nursing. There are tools that you use, there's processes that you follow. Even for me, in Hidden Value, shameless plug, I am not advocating for a new measurement model. Whatever you use, continue to use it. If you like Kirkpatrick, you like Phillips, you like Tallheimer's LTIM model, use them. I'm not advocating for
Right.
that. All I'm advocating for is you shift the lens of however you're measuring to the language of the business. And you
Yeah.
think about it from a business perspective. So it's almost like the LXP that used to sit on top of the LMS. I'm saying keep your measurement, but on
Yeah.
top of it, layer in the language and the vision of the business because that's what your business cares about.
Yeah. And that's probably our most common miss. And sometimes, I mean, you can know adult learning theory and the core things, but I think sometimes L&D people, and I know I'm painting with a big brush here, but I think sometimes L&D people are um, cautious to use the word ignorant. Let me choose inattentive to what they actually do for a living, what their business actually does for a living.
Yes. And I would expand that. And I raised my hand wholeheartedly. When I joined this industry, I had zero experience. I had zero expertise in it. We live in a low barrier to entry industry. Anybody can slap on the job title of their choice and suddenly, poof,
Right.
they're
Yeah.
a learning experience designer or instructional designer. I did it. I also know how much damage I did along the way for the first 10 years, truthfully, until I
Uh,
learned
yes. Yeah.
what we need to actually be doing. I was in this industry for 15 years before I ever heard learning science, ever.
Mm,
No one ever taught me that. It was you use the LMS and then you deliver content on the LMS, and that's learning. And so I'm not faulting the masses. You don't know what you don't know.
sure.
But it's your responsibility if you're in this industry and you didn't have to get a certification to be here or a degree to be here, that you have to continuously be investing in yourself to learn not just the fundamentals and the basics of your role, but the basics of learning in general. Because all of us, if you're in this industry, you play a role in that ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I always advocate for, I'll give you an example, for instructional designers who are on my team, they have to at least pilot and facilitate the course that they develop. You don't know
Mm,
how, if you're developing a virtual or in-person content, you don't know how it actually feels until you're standing up trying to teach it.
sure.
Instead of creating it in this silo and then passing it off, and then trainer shows up
Right.
and the trainer's like, this,
Yeah.
this doesn't work. I don't know how to say
Right.
this. This is not
Yeah.
the activity that's going to flow here.
It's like a chef that has never sampled their the food that they make. Yeah. That's really interesting. How did they find that to be challenging?
Yes, for the first few
Yeah.
times. But my
Yeah.
argument is to go back to your initial question about what's next. I would say my biggest proclamation is that L&D, as we know it today, will not exist in X number of years. I don't know the number. Let's say 5 years. This device is way better than a lot of practitioners. Once people figure out that they can learn right here, the question is, why do they need us? My argument to that is they do need us if we get out of our box, because this L&D box is not going to exist. However, I am not worried about my job and I'm not worried about my team's job because we solve problems. If you met me on the street and you said, "What do you do for a living?" I would tell you I solve problems for organizations. Learning and development is one of the tools that I use. But that's
Mm,
not all that I do. I don't
mm,
introduce myself and say, "Hi, my name's Keith. I'm in L&D." Because the person would say, "What the hell's L&D?" And then you
right.
say learning and development, and they say, "Are you a teacher?" No. Put all that aside.
Okay, I'm going to keep moving because I have no
Yeah,
idea what you're talking
we
about.
solve problems. That's what we
Yeah,
are doing. We solve
yeah,
problems for humans and we use learning and
yeah,
development as a function. There are problems in every single organization today. There will be problems in every single organization 5, 10 years from now. So if we are known as problem solvers, we have a job, we have value, we have
yeah,
something that we can offer. But if we are only known as instructional designers or facilitators or training or learning and development, we are putting ourselves in this limiting box with four walls and we have minimal amount of movement that we can
yeah.
do. And it's getting smaller and smaller.
It is, and there's pressure on every side.
Yeah. So get out
Yeah.
of that box, get into a much bigger box. Problem solving is a much bigger box that can apply to the entire organization. And so we have to just think differently about who we are and what we do.
And
And I
that's where your book
find
title, that's where the value shows up. When you can demonstrate that, it's a value add. You're not a cost center. You're
absolutely.
plus. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And to that point
Uh,
of being a cost center, I believe that the only L&D functions that are cost centers are the ones that act like a cost center. So at BDO, we are now a profit center. We're now offering our programs to our clients, and they're paying for them.
right.
So now no
Yeah.
one can say you're a cost center. Are
Right.
we equal? Are we revenue generating? I mean, yes, we're generating some revenue, but is it uh,
Well, the
higher than
cost
our
of doing
cost?
business. Yeah, the cost of
Yeah.
doing business is going down because you're generating revenue internally, which is lowering the, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it changes the narrative and the story for what we do.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, good. All right. We have you coming up in a webinar in June where we're going to have a whole lot more time to talk about it. And I'll give you a little preview of it. I'm going to ask Keith in the last year since Hidden Value got released, what got confirmed? And secondly, what did you miss or wish you could go back and say, let me rewrite that part a little bit. And then we're going to talk more about what you think is coming. But it's just such a good. You've given me numerous things that I'll be thinking about for hours to consider, and it's reframing. It's constantly reframing, and how we reframe those things is going to determine what is next. It isn't tools. It isn't shiny, flashy things. It's how what we think's going on in our own heads. So, Keith, with that, I want to say thank you. You've given us plenty to think about, with plenty more coming in a matter of weeks. So,
And don't
thank you
forget,
for your time today.
my pleasure. If you want to be a futurist, Magic 8 Ball.
I'll give it a try. I'm willing to learn. We'll see what happens. All right, man. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
My pleasure.